Let's go out to the Toyota of Hollywood guest line. Shop over 1,500 Toyotas indoors in one of America's largest showrooms at Toyota of Hollywood on 441 between Hollywood and Sheridan. There he is, Jeff Conine, two-time champion with the Florida Marlins. His dogs are joining us as well, and he's now a special assistant to Bruce Sherman. Jeff, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
None. Will you please tell them that when you live in a house on the corner like that, you're susceptible to golf balls?
We are susceptible, and I appreciate all donations from all the golfers that donate in my backyard. There's only one golfer, though, that I would like to get a hold of or in touch with. Is the one that put one through the back windshield of my car that was in my driveway.
Oh, my God.
Over the house?
Over the house.
Oh, my goodness. No, his house is here. The driveway's in the front. So it's nearly impossible to do that.
It's a 1 in a million shot. I want to meet that guy or girl. Whoever hit that ball, I want to meet him.
Very impressive. So, Jeff, you're going to be out at FAU coming up in March. You're going to be doing and speaking to some people about the state of Major League Baseball. How did you link up with this and getting over there?
A good friend of mine that I met lives up in Boca and knows Cammie Batchelder, who is organizing all these talks through FAU. So I'm going to do one in both campuses in Boca and one up in Jupiter.
Oh, yeah. Well, the Jupiter one's convenient. It's right there with the spring training facility.
Exactly. Yeah, he'll be really close to that one.
It was a lot of fans were excited, Jeff, to hear that you're back with the organization, that you're going to be a special assistant to Bruce Sherman. How did this all come to be that you're back with the team?
Yeah, Bruce reached out to me shortly after Derek Jeter's departure in March and said he'd just like to talk. He'd heard a lot about me and the organization and with the fans and such. So we kind of had a couple phone conversations. Then after the first of the year, after the start of the season, we met and just had breakfast together and talked about the organization and me possibly coming back. And, he said there's going to be a lot of changes going on this year as far as organizational moves and such. And let's keep in touch, but we'll talk after the season was over. So, day after the season was over, Bruce gave me a call and things went from there. And I'm super happy to be back.
Does it seem like they're trying to not necessarily build something? In the past, the Marlins have tried to put things together rather quickly. Does it seem like now they're on a path to sustain something for a long period of time with how they're doing things? Yeah,
I think they're trying to rebuild a culture in this organization, and that's got to be from the ground up. That's your rookie ball teams, your minor league teams, A ball, AA, AAA. That entire feeder system that gets to the big leagues, because Miami's a challenging market, as you know, as far as revenue is concerned. And we can't go out there like the New York Mets and the Chicago Cubs and just make a big splash in free agency. We got to develop our own guys. So I think right now the focus is, especially with bringing Skip Schumacher and his team in, is that we got to build this culture, a blueprint, so to speak, of an organization and develop it from draftees on or trade pieces we might get back. And when they get to the big leagues, they know how to play the game the way that the organization wants to play it.
Was there any part of it, Jeff, with your talks with Bruce about maybe what he expected when he took over and like, what were those conversations like of what needs to change from, I guess what we're going into year 6 of him being the owner now of the team? Like, what were those talks like as far as, kicking back and forth of what he'd like to see change?
Well, there was a lot of stuff that went on as soon as they took over the team and some contracts they had to get out from under. Giancarlo Stanton at that time had signed the largest professional contract in North American sports history. So, and a couple other guys were coming up on either arbitration or free agency, and it just wasn't sustainable as far as revenue standpoint was concerned. So there's some changes that had to be made, and that's going to set you back when you get rid of quality players like that. Get rid of an MVP and a Gold Glover and Christian Yelich, but we got trade pieces back, and now you kind of have to take a few steps back to get better. And I think right now, with the new manager coming in, there's a breath of fresh air with the organization. Kim Ng is now basically free and clear in charge of the whole baseball operations side. Caroline O'Connor was named business president. So lot of new faces and a fresh start to go from here forward.
Jeff, is it weird? Like, we were having this conversation beforehand, but it seems like baseball is still the last remaining sport that is very patient with their young talent. For whatever reason, it's the arbitration thing, the years of, control. But it always seems like these young kids come into baseball and they get every opportunity to become professionals and they're never rushed. Do you find that they're trying to rush that process up, or no, they're just, everybody is still very patient with young talent that comes into Major League Baseball?
Yeah, I think the Marlins are a little bit more patient, possibly because they've got to develop young talent, because we can't, like I said, pay those big dollars when they become free agents. If they've been stars for 6 years, they kind of price themselves out. So I think they might even be the opposite side. So they're going to get guys to the big leagues to see what they got.
Right.
Maybe a little bit more quickly than some other organizations, because they need to know. And if the guy that gets a good shot and is up there for half a year, whatever it takes, isn't doing the job, well, they can shuffle in another young guy that they've got in the pipeline, and hopefully they take hold, and that's the guy you're going to stick to. But, in baseball in general, the system of the minor leagues is unique. You really don't have that kind of development system in any other pro league. And because it takes a long time to be proficient at hitting a baseball. So back in my day, it was like in the minor leagues, a hitter needed to see about 1,500 at-bats in the minor leagues before they felt that they were prepared to come up to the big leagues. And I can't remember how many innings pitched a pitcher would have to pitch to get that kind of threshold that management was comfortable of them being in that situation. Because it can be overwhelming when you get up there, and if you're overmatched, just the pressure of win now, like in the minor leagues development, you can kind of take your time and develop. Where big leagues, it's all about W's and L's. And if you're not doing it, they're going to get somebody else that can.
Jeff, was there any talk with Bruce when you guys got together about just the idea of kind of connecting more of the past great moments with the team? Because it did feel like when Jeter was here, it's kind of almost wiped away. You were gone. A lot of the luminaries were gone from the team, and you're one of the connective threads of like 2 championships. You're the lone guy who's got both rings. And I can just tell you, as a guy who grew up as a Marlins fan, it felt like a lot of that was kind of just wiped away over when the new regime. Was there any talk about the idea of, bringing a lot of that back? I know it's, 30th anniversaries coming up and things like that, to just almost harbor on that nostalgia a little bit, because this franchise, though it's been through its ups and downs, has had a lot of great players as well.
Yeah, by the way, I love the shirt. I love the old school logo there. Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about that, actually, that you need to get the alumni involved. You need to get the past players. And like you said, we've had a bunch of great ones. And we're going to see a bunch of them this year. 30th anniversary is a lot to celebrate for an organization, for a team. We won 2 world championships, and a lot of organizations haven't even won one or just one. So, yes, it's been a focus on what we've been doing this offseason is trying to make connections back to the past players and in touch with the history of this team, and put it on proud display.
How surprised were you to hear that Jazz Chisholm apparently went to the manager, and there's been this void in center field, and he says, I'd like to take a crack at that. I think I could be good at that. How common is hearing something like that, and how do you think he's going to adapt to that?
It's not very common, actually. I think most organizations will go to a player and say, hey, we've got this other guy coming in that he can shine at this position. We want you to make a change. Most guys will resist that. So hats off to Jazz. I have not met him yet or really spent any time with him. But for him to go in there and volunteer that option for him to go into center field, obviously he's got great speed. He's a phenomenal athlete. The outfield positions, center field is the easiest to play. You might have a little more ground to cover, but you don't get the tailing balls in left and right like you do, or in center as you do in left and right. So it's commonly held that that's an easier position to play just because of the field of vision you have. So I'm excited. I talked to John Jay today, the outfield coach, and he said that Jazz looks right now like he can play in a big league game. He's been out there working early down at the Lone Depot Park, and from all indications so far from John Jay, he said he looks fantastic out there.
Talking to Jeff Conine. You got FanFest coming up for the Marlins, by the way, this Saturday over at Lone Depot Park. Jeff's going to be speaking at FAU coming up on March 8th from 7 to 8:30, talking about the the days of Major League Baseball now to what it was and all that. So some great stuff coming up there, Jeff. I wanted a question on this, Jeff. It is a trade deadline time in the NBA. As a professional athlete, baseball also has a very busy trade deadline year in, year out. What is that like? Is that a stressful time when you may not know what your future holds and all that? Like, what is this like having to deal with all this stuff, fodder and rumors and all of that?
Yeah, there's a lot, especially nowadays. I was lucky. I didn't really have social media to deal with when I played. So nowadays, these guys get bombarded every single day with every single platform that they're on about trade rumors. And, as you guys know, it's essential for your platform to get out there on social media. And everybody knows anything within seconds of when it's reported. So I think nowadays it's much more in their face. Back then, we heard rumors. We always heard, hey, you might get traded at the deadline. You're on the block. But at the end of the day, I can't control any of that. The only thing I can control is what my performance is like in between those lines. And, toward the end of my career, I got mentioned a lot of trades and actually did get traded twice. So what can you do other than do your job? And that's what you try to focus on. But it can be a distraction for a lot of people for sure.
Well, that last minute one in 03 worked out really good. It was great swooping you in to fill in for Mike Lowell, and the rest was history, man. That was an all timer. Was that like? Do you remember like as that unfolded when you got word of that when everything was happening? Because it was such a crazy time. Mike gets hurt. They're gonna move Miggy. They bring you back, and it all ended up obviously working out pretty fantastic.
Yeah, it was a crazy story. I'm in Seattle on August 31st. The deadline is now at 4 p.m., but back then it used to be midnight. So we are literally pulling the bus up to the plane, and we have to go through a TSA check before we climb the stairs to get on the plane. So I'm sitting on the bus waiting for the line to go down, and Jim Beattie, our GM, comes into the bus. And there are two other guys in the very front, and he walked past them, and he started looking at me, and I'm like, I'm the only one back there. And the GM doesn't usually come on the player's bus. So he sits across from me and says, well, there is a trade on the table that would be taking you back to Florida. But there are some negotiating to do because they wanted to take the last year of my deal in Baltimore and break it up into 2 years. So there are some negotiations that had to be had. And thank God for the old airphone. Remember the airphones in the back of the headrest in the seats? That's how I got my deal done. I immediately called my wife on my cell phone and said, listen, this is what's happening. I'm about to take off. I'll be calling you from the plane. And she had to get a hold of my agent. She had to be like the old operator, the switchboard operator, when they had the little they used to plug in. So she'd be talking to my agent. Then I'd call her and she'd tell me what my agent said. And then they'd relay that to the Marlins front office. And then I'd call back and then what's going on. And it literally came down to Larry Beinfest telling me at 11:58 p.m., he goes, Jeff, I need to know right now. I got to get this deal in before midnight or we don't have a deal. And I said, yes, let's do it. And he didn't even say goodbye, just click. And by the time I got to Baltimore that night, I was a Florida Marlin.
Awesome, man. Well, it's great to have you back with the organization, Jeff.
Absolutely.
FanFest. You got a special announcement? We got a tease, like anything that's supposedly coming up on Saturday? They've been teasing this big Jeff Conine announcement that's coming up.
I know. I've been getting texts left and right about that special announcement myself. So hopefully I'll know about it before they.
Well, that's coming up Saturday at FanFest, and Jeff's going to be doing a talk at FAU coming up on March 8th. And when was the Jupiter one, Jeff? That's because that one's at the Boca campus.
Boca is March 7th, and I'm doing the next night up in Jupiter March 8th.
There you go. Well, we appreciate you spending some time with us, Jeff. Thanks so much.
All right, guys. Have a good day.
All right.
There you go. Jeff Conine, Mr. Marlin. He is back with the organization.
Love that
Goosies.
Guy. You don't like if you live down here and you talk about the Marlins. You can't talk about the Marlins without talking about Jeff Conine.
No way.
Can't.
No way.
You can't.
Possible.
You can't.
All-star MVP.
Every team has that guy, right? For the Dolphins, I mean, Dan Marino, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like just certain guys that are synonymous with that team. And he's that guy. Jeff Conine will always be known as Marlin.
Appreciate him joining us. We'll take a break.